Yeah, I think that's everybody we're going to have. So let me know when you've hit record. Kenmore City Council is now in session. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember File.
Present.
Councilmember Baker.
Present.
Councilmember Kugler.
Here.
Councilmember Shrubnik.
Here.
Councilmember Marshall.
Present.
Mayor Herbig.
Here.
And Councilmember Deputy Mayor O'Kane has been excused.
Excused. Yes. And go on to our study session now. We have one item, and that is a presentation from Bastyr, Bastyr Community Initiatives with Dr. Devin Byrd, University President, and Dr. Galloway, Vice President for Advancement and Enrollment Services. Dr. Byrd, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Herbig, as well as council members. It's nice to be in front of you this evening. We certainly do appreciate your time today. Today we have a presentation about a couple of areas and proposals that we would like to present to the City Council. And at this moment, I'd like to share my screen and also turn it over to Dr. Galloway, who will begin the presentation for us.
Hello, I'm Jeanne Galloway, and I'm a vice president over at Bastyr University. And I have been around Bastyr University for quite a while. I started as a student at Bastyr in the end of 1999, and pretty much every day I would drive through Kenmore to get onto the campus at Bastyr. And I went through 4 years of the naturopathic medical school training at Bastyr and graduated in 2004. And one of the things that I find so interesting is I think in some ways, I've always driven through the Kenmore area when I would make those treks to the campus, and I would think, this is such a cute little town, and you would notice little things. And, I just thought it was always so interesting. And I had moved away after graduating and came back into the region about 11 years ago. And when I had the opportunity to work with Bastyr now as a vice president at the school, working with our marketing and with our enrollment services to bring students to the university, I really researched the Kenmore area before deciding to move here, where I now live. And before really accepting the job at Bastyr, I wanted to see where I would be moving to, what I'd be up to. And I was so impressed, and I've said this to a number of you already, I was so impressed with the vision that I saw and the information that was shared as you look at the Kenmore city planning, the real elegance of these ideas of making the lives of people in this city better and better, and just the very tangible ways that you've improved things. So I just think it's really cool. It's a really cool city. I accepted the job at Bastyr. My wife and I moved here. We've been trying to get more and more involved with different things at the city and enjoyed so many of the different events throughout the year, and have been enjoying going to the hangar, of course, who doesn't? A lot of fun. And most recently, I've been invited to participate as a member of the DEI task force. And what an honor and what a privilege to be able to work in lockstep with people who are trying to make the lives of people in their city better and better. So I'm just really thrilled to be engaged in this way, and excited for what we're going to be sharing. Now, do we have the presentation up? Is that going? It's not showing up on my screen.
You'll have to excuse me for just a moment. I'm experiencing some difficulty.
Please hold, we have technical difficulties.
The presentation was up earlier.
Was it?
Yeah, and then it came down.
Oh, yeah, it kind of flickered on, didn't it, for a second, then it went away. I would say, as we're tap dancing between the show, I would say that as we look at Bastyr University and we think about how this employer in the city can be more engaged with the citizenry, one of the pieces that we're trying to understand is how can we actually merge that sort of Venn diagram of what Bastyr does in terms of wellness and health and clinical insight and innovation in natural medicine? How can we merge that with the needs of the city? And so as we've been talking to, oh, hey, I see something. As we've been talking to the city leaders and council members and the mayor, we've been really finding that there is some really interesting places for overlap. I think it's just up to all of us to find out what makes the most sense and where do we move forward. So, Devin, did you want to start in, or did you want me to take this slide?
Please continue forward. Thank you, Dr.
Sure,
Galloway.
absolutely. So this is really the heart of the matter. What is the vision of the city of Kenmore and the leadership there in the city, and the vision of Bastyr? And, really for us, we're an academic center. We focus on knowledge of the natural health, arts, and sciences. The real goal of the whole thing comes in that last few words. It's transforming the health and well-being of the human community. And I think it's very much in line with what the city of Kenmore leadership is trying to do for the city in so many different ways. Next slide. So our mission is, if your vision is that place you're going in the future, the mission is the day-to-day. This should inform our day-to-day. So we're educators. We're educating future leaders in natural health. We're respecting the healing power of nature, recognizing that mind and body are intrinsically inseparable, and that we model, because of that, we model this integrated approach to education, research, and clinical service. So that's really about integration on every possible level: the integration of the patient, the integration of Bastyr into the community, the integration of education and clinical and actual clinical service to humans. Next. Devin, did you want to jump into the introduction of the BCI initiative?
Absolutely. So thank you very much. Our institution recently initiated an endeavor that was designed to marry and couple both our internal as well as our external partnerships. And in this particular light, we developed what we call the Bastyr Community Initiative. It is designed to be able to move forward in several areas. The first of which is in that area of having conversations that are critical to the internal institution as well as our external partners. Secondly, it's to continue to push forward and move ahead with research activity as well as endeavors that will allow us to be able to provide the cutting edge type of interventions that we have been known for and that we desire to continue to maintain over the course of time, especially during really difficult times at the current moment as we're all facing the pandemic. Thirdly, it's to also advocate not only for the type of programs that we have engaged, but also for those initiatives and our mission and our vision and values. And then fourthly, which is really at the heart of what we are presenting tonight, it's that of a proposed partnership that we would like to have with the city of Kenmore. And that's through our engagement endeavor, which is designed to be able to engage our community in the most meaningful ways and with the resources that we have in order to change the lives of those with whom we reside and encounter on a regular basis, and also with those that we're responsible for treating as well as educating. Through this initiative, the Bastyr Community Initiative, we would like to propose an idea of connecting the Kenmore as an initiative that will allow for future projects as well as ideas moving forward. But as you can see here, this would be designed to have a very direct pathway in connection and collaboration. In this area, our focus for tonight's presentation is really on the associated funding options that have been provided to the city of Kenmore, wherein we would like to partner with regard to the high-level strategy that pursues the opportunity to position the city, the community, as well as businesses to transition into a post-COVID era. We all know that many of our residents, as well as our families, children, and businesses alike, have been impacted negatively. And several of the initiatives that we are presenting today will help to provide additional support, as well as aspects that will provide additional bandwidth and capacity for our residents. In addition, our position and purpose is to be able to consider enduring legacy projects that will be bold investments in Kenmore's future, primarily within individuals as well as in aspects that will help to support those initiatives. One of the areas that we wanted to ensure that we connected on is how we feel that Bastyr's proposal connects with ARPA funding along with the guidelines. I won't read through all of these, but suffice it to say that when we look at the ways in which the funding is provided, we believe that it's focused in on supporting health initiatives as well as being able to alleviate the impact that has occurred for individuals as well as families disproportionately impacted by the events of the last 2 years. The 4 areas that we believe address the funding resource and aspects are: 1, to be able to assist households that have experienced food insecurity, supporting public health by addressing the impact on public health and economic harms to households, supporting food assistance, and then 4thly, improving the efficacy of public health as well as economic programs through identified outreach engagements. And so these are the major areas that we believe focus in on our idea of being able to assist residents of our local community. Along with this, when we look at our Bastyr Community Initiative, as we connect to Kenmore, this initiative tonight really focuses on our desire to be able to connect the kids through the city of Kenmore. Looking at one of our most precious resources, those who will become future residents, citizens in an adult capacity, but even more so, deserve to have every opportunity as they're moving forward and growing and developing. And as we think about our communities, it is about investing, just as the city of Kenmore is already doing. This would add to that wonderful work by looking at the fact that the cost of living has contributed to the stress that has been experienced by residents, as well as to the food insecurity with the rising costs in food that we've seen over the last really 3 to 4 years, but more specifically over the last 2 years, and especially within the last 6 months, as we've all experienced inflation. Along with this, we believe we have an opportunity to empower our youth to look at the human impacts of the problem by taking action, teaching them at an early age about ways to engage in innovation, to grow and to cook whole foods, apply nutrition and herbal medicine, and also to adopt an active lifestyle. In these particular areas, we really believe that we can help to infuse even more resilience within our youth, while also being able to provide fresh foods to residents in need, as well as to push the envelope when it comes to STEM activities for our children, as well as to infuse those aspects and opportunities for our adult communities as well. In this sense, we would like to actually extend our commitment to public health, again, above and beyond what the city of Kenmore is already engaging in, by removing barriers to our programs and creating access for all residents. In this particular area, the Connect to Kids initiative addresses these major areas: offering more sports and exercise options, connecting Bastyr's health and wellness expertise and programming within the community, reducing food insecurity for Kenmore Elementary, Kenmore Middle School students, as well as other students, in addition to looking at innovations for long-term impact. One of the critical areas that is possibly unknown to many of us is the fact that about 48% of the students who attend Kenmore Elementary qualify for free and reduced lunch. Very staggering. We also can consider that 40+% of students also qualify for free or reduced lunch at Kenmore Middle, right within our city areas, as well as within our property lines. And of course, that extends on through to the high school level. And basically also extends for several other kids who may not attend both Kenmore Elementary and Kenmore Middle. The idea behind us focusing in on this is that it's a widespread need, it's an immediate need, and it is something that is impacting our kids as well as our residents and families right now and today. So within this, the first initiative within the community engagement aspect that connects us to Kenmore, connects us to kids, is our Exercise Science and Nutrition Initiative. That's initiative number 1 of 4. Within this area, I won't read through the entire slide. I just want to highlight a number of areas. This particular project will focus in on week-long summer day camps that identify a sport, a nutrition, and a mind-body topic. This is an element, this is an area that can assist kids with becoming even more active than they are, providing opportunities, especially for those kids who might not otherwise have this particular opportunity. especially as we think about our botanical medicine, holistic landscape, as well as even psychology programs that will have an opportunity to assist kids in example camps such as this. We also will take a look at week-long day camps focused on joyful movement, nourishment, and body positive therapy for children who might experience body issues. We know that this is an area that is impacting kids at an alarming rate. Many of them suffer in silence because of the issues related to their bodies and or inability to be able to engage in the types of activities they would like. We also would look at camps that would be designed to help athletes maintain conditioning, including, again, sport, nutrition, as well as cooking, as well as even the mental side of aspects that will help them to perform at an even better rate. We also would consider week-long day camps for children who are suffering currently from mental health issues, as many adults are. There have been recent reports, of course, about adults who are experiencing tremendous levels of anxiety and depression as a result of COVID and reduced social interactions, as well as just the change in the normal way in which they interface in their daily lives. This is also true for kids, and especially was true when they were not attending school in person, but were attending virtually. We also would look to have potential opportunities for a small cohort of students throughout the entire school year that would allow for them to gain additional knowledge and skills. And then finally, we would also potentially look at some opportunities for adult camps for those who desire to accelerate a healthy behavior and lifestyle change in order to possibly look at some weekend retreats focused in on health topics, cooking, psychology, and even fitness and or movement. But this is the exercise, science, and nutrition area. The second initiative under the Connected Kids would really focus in on nutrition. In this particular area, it would focus in on children, elementary, middle, and even high school, wherein kids would attend for a 2-week or even a multi-day summer class. Kids would learn in the Bastyr University Nutrition Lab, where there are cooking stations, there are foods, there's equipment, there's also instruction that can be provided and will be provided by both faculty as well as graduate students who are seeking their degrees. Children who are selected for these particular nutrition classes during the first year and even beyond would have an opportunity to engage in a capstone experience where they would cook a signature dish or dishes wherein their parents and or family members could also attend either in person or virtually. At the end of camp, one of the ways for us to be able to provide an extended way for children to continue these types of experiences would be to provide a set of cooking utensils, pots, pans, as well as utensils for them to take home. And then in addition to that, we of course would continue to provide food supplies for those children throughout, let's say, the next year, wherein they would also have additional instruction and opportunities to maintain their level of skill in the area of cooking, learning new recipes, as well as ways of engaging and interacting, either in person or virtually, depending on what's happening at that moment. We also, as it is indicated here, would extend this beyond the summer period of time. In addition, the third area would be focused in on farming as well as gardening. In this particular area, we would take a look at a hydroponics lab, which is a lab that involves the growth of foods through actual water and looking at very efficient and effective ways of allowing for growth to occur in a controlled environment within a greenhouse or a container, and also looking at soil growth opportunities within our existing gardens, which we currently have. In this area, it would allow for year-round opportunities for research. I'll talk a bit more about that for kids. It would also allow for the summer camps we referenced, in addition to community engagement. The children who are part of these camps would be able to also be provided with a soil garden or even a mini hydroponics garden they would take home at the end of this particular camp. And they would also continue to receive instruction as well as supplies throughout the next year or so, which will allow for them to maintain their ability to continue to engage in the practices they've learned. The ideas behind the nutrition area as well as the farm and gardening aspects is to continue that process and also for family members to be able to experience what kids have learned in these areas. In addition, we are really focused in on the fact that this would help to hopefully decrease food insecurity, especially for those children, as I mentioned earlier, who are qualifying for free and reduced lunch. In addition, we would also grow herbs as well as vegetables for the Bastyr labs, research, and other didactic classes. We would also seek to serve local food bank programs, that would be able to be provided with fresh vegetables at no cost to them. And then also, of course, having a Bastyr garden market, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. The farming and gardening aspects would allow us to be able to address agroecology, nutrition science, as well as botanical medicine. When we look at the regenerative agroecology aspects, it involves interdisciplinary, hands-on classroom experiences for children. These are aspects that can allow them to stay very well connected to elements that they otherwise would not be able to experience through soil science, compost, and climate change. They would also learn about farm to fork nutrition, learning about education, as well as foundational cooking skills with a combined aspect and program with our nutrition aspects. And then also empowering children to support their health over a lifetime by accessing accessible culinary and medicinal herbs. In addition to this, we also would invite and allow kids to experience our sacred seeds trails that we have on campus, where it would highlight our native Coast Salish traditions in land stewardship, as well as other principles. So connecting us back with the area and also residents even beyond Kenmore in some ways, as well as for those who are a part of our city of Kenmore. The last element, or the fourth area, is that of a mobile lab. We would seek to have a Bastyr mobile nutrition lab that would use food from the hydroponics lab, as well as our existing soil garden. We would then be able to take those elements, as well as the experiences, to our elementary, middle, and high school students for a larger portion of kids to be able to experience beyond those who would be a part of the camps. In addition, it would also help us to be able to provide education for those kids about the food supply chain, as well as sustainability, even for adults, by having the capacity to visit our local Kenmore neighborhoods and to allow them to experience this up close. We would also be able to provide food and engagement on a scientific level regarding STEM and what's happening on the grounds of Bastyr University for community events as well. When we look at the overall benefits of the four proposals, the primary area that we wanted to talk about is that of science, technology, engineering, and math. It's really thinking about agriculture and biology, engineering and industrial design, when children would be involved with and up close to how foods are grown on racks. Computer science and the tracking of the growth process, as well as being able to understand the critical as well as the very finite methods of being able to make calculations as well as adjustments. Business and marketing aspects for future camps that would allow for us to be able to teach those kids who have a desire to learn those particular principles. Statistics or math calculations, which is a very critical and fundamental skill. And then also thinking about sustainability, thinking about the environment in which they're a part of, but also considering how through these particular aspects on campus, we are able to grow foods in a year-round capacity in a climate where soil growth occurs for a fewer number of months. In addition to this, we would also have a benefit of supporting food access and public health in terms of healthy lifestyles by allowing for a weekly farmers market that accepts SNAP EBT, as well as other types of vouchers, public nutrition or cooking demos, herbal medicine products and education, research initiatives, in addition to adult continuing education opportunities in the future. And then also thinking about raising curiosity and also promoting healthy eating, and then even creating learning opportunities around nutrition seminars. It all goes back to engagement with the community. Bastyr desires to engage with the community in a very direct way, and this would serve as an opportunity in addition. Along with this, thinking about the community engagement, they would be able to learn about innovative technologies, sustainable solutions, in addition to being there on campus and in person, to be able to witness farm to table events, in addition to also outreach to the local community. And then finally, there would be an opportunity for those who are interested outside of those children who are part of the camps to also even be able to take home their own hydroponic gardens with the hope that our community, our families, our residents would be able to provide other sustainable methods of providing themselves with food in an ongoing manner, especially during critical periods of time and otherwise for sustainability and infusion of healthier lifestyles. In terms of the environmental sustainability, it also allows us to be able to consider how we can shorten the food supply chain, how we can also cut fuel emissions and decrease transportation costs, especially most recently during the snowstorm. Having a hydroponic garden indoors would allow one to continue to be able to experience the benefits of growing foods. Eliminating the need for herbicides and pesticides and providing more organic foods. And then also considering how a closed loop hydroponic system actually utilizes less water than a soil garden, but also looking at the benefits of soil gardening as well and considering a both and. Beyond this, it would also allow us to have a commitment to regenerative health. In this area, it allows us to be able to improve and to protect our waters as well as our air quality. We know that Kenmore is dedicated to this and is also extending ways in which residents can experience waterways as well as walkways, and thinking about how we can continue this in other areas of our lives, growing foods. It also allows us to be able to support a net zero waste and resource cycling. Again, considering the science technology aspects and how we can continue to extend our innovative ways. And then in addition to that, would allow for us to be able to fuel local economies and also to support our public health. Beyond this, it's critical for us to think about financial sustainability of this project. Should we be able to be so fortunate to engage with this endeavor with the city of Kenmore. In these particular areas, with the hydroponics lab, it would allow us to be able to initiate grant opportunities and seeking grant funding immediately and looking at community endeavors that would help to even further reduce food insecurity aspects and also to engage in other organizational partnerships, food banks and otherwise, and looking for grant opportunities to continue to fund that. In addition, it would allow for us to be able to have outside donors who have an interest in these particular initiatives and being able to support what is taking place, and also for us to expand the projects that we could engage with our young children, our families, our residents, and also other initiatives that we would engage in with the city of Kenmore. It would allow for us to also be able to extend our industry partnerships and to look at opportunities for industry to become more directly involved by providing additional supplies for kids and physical gardens. It would also allow us to be able to extend those opportunities for kids who might not be able to attend in person through technology, through the use of augmented reality, virtual reality headsets as a way of them being able to attend and to experience and understand what is happening versus being there in person. And it would allow for us to also continue to extend the partnerships that we are currently developing with our international partners in other parts of the world, for instance, such as Australia, so that we can share what is taking place in the context of our research aspects, which is the last area that I'd like to identify for financial sustainability by seeking grants and also being able to look at innovative ways of being able to engage in the hydroponics as well as soil gardening. There are ideas that are already percolating and have been discussed that Bastyr could move forward in these areas that are currently not in operation with other hydroponics labs. In addition to this, there would also be additional revenue generation opportunities involving the sales from produce as well as mushrooms that will be grown inside of the greenhouse that would allow for local populations to be able to experience what is taking place and businesses who might have an interest in this area. Along with this, we would invite opportunities for nutrition and packaged dinner experiences for Kenmore as well as Seattle residents, which would allow them an up-close opportunity for both single as well as multi-session experiences that would work through various courses as well as different types of meals, and also seek to increase our partnership with the lodge, which is just located within the same area as ourselves, looking at staycation opportunities as well as out-of-town visitors that would bring additional revenue to the city of Kenmore in multiple ways for lodging as well as dinner experiences, and also to experience the grounds. As we look at the projected cost in the overview, phase one would be designed to begin this particular summer of 2022. The projects that we would focus on would involve both farming as well as gardening. That would involve various aspects of equipment, maintenance, and support at a level of $250,000. This would allow for us to be able to purchase the greenhouse as well as the necessary controllers, solar panels, in addition to the hydroponics racks as well as other chemicals, and not chemicals, but other growth opportunities to be able to provide for the startup in this particular area, as well as the propagation of seedlings for a period of about 2+ years. In addition to this, we have personnel costs that are listed here according to the letter P. We would also seek to start a nutrition program wherein children would have an opportunity to come for those 2-week camps to learn how to cook various foods and also have an opportunity to take home a culinary set themselves, just as the farming and gardening students would also have an opportunity to take home either a soil garden or a hydroponics garden. The cost there is estimated at $42,000. That would allow for sustainability over the period of 3 years in this area. Obviously, we would begin revenue generation aspects as soon as possible following the initiation of the project. Phase 2, which would be designed to start in the summer of 2023, it's estimated about $118,000. The exercise science programs would begin at a cost of about $12,000, which would allow for equipment maintenance as well as support costs, whereby we would also begin the mobile nutrition lab. That would involve a cost of about $80,000 in this particular area for the actual mobile lab, inclusive of all of the associated cooking aspects, stoves, ovens, and otherwise. And so the overall cost for the summer of 2022 is projected at $325,000, whereas the summer 2023 at $118,000. As I complete and finish up on the last slide, the key elements that we would like to focus on. One, are thinking about the aspect and the fact of targeting the health and wellness of children and families in our communities. Addressing a current need as we know it to be present at the current moment. Thinking about the long-term impact of being able to teach children as well as families about the benefits of health and wellness and additional elements that they can add to their lifestyle, and also even make changes where they would like. Thinking about a legacy project for the city of Kenmore that would actually serve, excuse me, as a primary aspect for other cities to be able to emulate, that would have engagement also with other institutions and universities. And thinking about the ARPA funding for initial projects in this area. What we are asking and requesting of the City Council is an amount of $325,000, which will allow for us to be able to initiate this project. Obviously, there are other costs that are associated with this that we are budgeting for at the current time in our budgeting process that will be utilized to help support and to also move this project forward through initiation. And as you can see here, as we link all of our elements to the community engagement aspect of our Bastyr Community Initiative and thinking about our connection to Kenmore and to our kids, the first 2 projects would focus in on nutrition as well as our farming and gardening aspects, with the other elements to initiate in subsequent years through the promotion of grant funding, donor funding, as well as other revenue generating aspects. I want to thank the City Council for its time and the opportunity to be able to present this idea. We really do appreciate it, and I'd like to stop there and open up the floor for any questions at this moment.
First, could we take down the, thank you. Councilmember Baker.
Yes, I am really pleased to hear what Bastyr is proposing. I think you caught the essence of what we have been trying to do over the years in supporting children in our community. Children are extremely important and always have been to the City Council and to the city. And so I'm very, very pleased to hear this and enthusiastically would support in any way I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Baker. We appreciate that. We feel the same way.
Councilmember Marshall.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I echo that. Both my kids went to Kenmore Elementary and Kenmore Middle School. I think it's critical that we focus on our low-income kids in our community and trying to get this great resource to them. On a somewhat separate note, had you also thought about exploring, when it gets online, the Environmental Learning Center that's going to be next to the lodge in St. Edward State Park? Just an idea for some great collaboration could come out of that.
Thank you, Councilmember Marshall, for those comments and thoughts. And yes, we would be very open and excited about partnering with those
And
in new endeavors.
just to throw in a side comment on that, at the very beginning of that project, when they were thinking through what this learning center might be about, I attended a number of meetings, kind of those community insight meetings, to try to gauge a sense of, how Bastyr could participate. So we are very interested, very open to making sure that there's a very strong connection there.
Councilmember File.
Thank you. I really appreciate this project. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for our community, and as a long-term sustainable project. Anything that connects STEM, science, innovative, opportunities for learning is a good thing for our Title I school pathway and our community. It fosters long-term learning. So what I do have a question about, though, is you're requesting $325K, and you have other projects. Have you raised any funds or secured any funds towards any of these other projects, or are you in the process of raising funds?
Very good question. We have not raised additional funds at the current time. And the reason for that is it's a new idea, it's a new initiative. And we sought to actually approach the city of Kenmore first in this area. And especially where we are at the current moment, the idea is that, yes, we would also seek additional funding. There are some additional areas that Dr. Galloway has also provided as opportunities. But we wanted to ensure that we provided this opportunity first to the city of Kenmore. But to your question, yes, we would also seek additional sources of funding in order to launch these projects.
Thank
We
you.
have a team of, well, counting myself and Dr. Byrd, we have a team of 6 people that are going to be securing funding for the university generally, and some new members of the team that are particularly adept at grant writing and who are going to be coming alongside Bastyr to help us with funding in a variety of areas. And I will tell you, to a person, every single one of the individuals on those teams, when they heard about this project, they were like, wow, this is something that we can definitely secure funding from individuals who really love the Bastyr Gardens and would just love to have them have an impact beyond just the 4 walls of the garden, right? And so I think that we have individuals as well as wonderful foundations in the region and even nationally that would be interested in this.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Councilmember Shrevenick.
Yeah, thank you again for the presentation. Kind of tagging on to Councilmember File. So I saw the ask, and you have kind of 3 broad areas: the farming, nutrition, and exercise science. I'm actually particularly interested in the exercise science and the nutrition pieces, maybe even more than the farming. So I'm just curious. I mean, they're all important, but if I had to, in my own brain, prioritize them, we've always been about kind of health and nutrition and fitness for kids and adults. We have the Playful City that we got under the Michelle Obama initiative. And so, I mean, this has been a longstanding interest of our city. My question is about, if we were to provide partial funding. So for example, if we were to provide funding for, in year 1, the nutrition piece, the camps, would that be able to be launched in the absence of the other component? Or, if we provided funding for the, exercise science, could that be moved to year 1? I'm just curious if there's any flexibility in that.
The short answer, Councilmember Shrevenick, and thank you for your comments, is that we would be able to pivot. The idea is that the source, for instance, if we think about the nutrition camps, the source of the food would be different. So for instance, instead of it coming from, all of it coming from our gardens, for instance, most of it coming from our gardens, we would have to, of course, purchase some of that food in order to be able to provide the experience. In addition to thinking about the camps that we would offer in terms of the exercise science area, we would probably not roll out all of those just because of the bandwidth and need to be able to ensure that when we do this, we do it the right way. But we would be able to pivot and to provide some of those camps or some of those experiences. And of course, these initiatives are, if we could launch them all this summer, we would love to be able to do that. In actuality, if we had all of the funding then and we poured all of our efforts into it, we would probably be able to, it's a big lift. But in all reality, when we look at being able to move it ahead, we could pivot and we would be able to move into those other areas.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was so struck by is it's very ambitious, which I love that. It's, big vision, but I'm also curious, what the demand will be like and, filling the slot, just sort of making sure that it does come off successfully and potentially starting, with one area, moving to another, just really systematically. But that's just how my brain thinks. So thank you.
That is okay. I appreciate that. The other piece that I want to mention within this particular conversation is that we are actively engaged in our strategic planning. And that is scheduled to be complete by April of this year, so in a few months. And we're looking at across 5 years in terms of where our expectations are. So within that, this actually combines a number of those elements as it really relates to the promotion of our programs, engagement with community, and also developing partnerships. So it is a part of a larger process as well as vision for where the institution is seeking to go in these areas. But also understanding that as an institution, we must be able to and need to be able to handle multiple initiatives at the same time within reason. There's a lot of pressure that we do place on ourselves, but also the reality of it is when you think about the needs that we have in the community, we have some very immediate needs that we feel Bastyr is well poised to be able to partner with the city on. And that's where the excitement comes from. That really Jeanne related a little earlier about the team who has been involved with these discussions thus far.
Councilmember Kugler.
Thank you, Mayor Herbig. Thank you so much, Dr. Byrd and Dr. Galloway, for that really comprehensive presentation. I really appreciated you going into depth into so many different areas and kind of explaining the comprehensive thought that you put forth towards developing that program. There were some things that really stood out to me that I really appreciate. Having additional opportunities for kids in our city, I think, is so important. So I love the idea of giving them opportunities to have the 2-week camps, giving them those hands-on learning experiences, is fantastic. We're essentially teaching them to, fish and giving them lifelong lessons that they can carry with them into adulthood. I appreciate also that you thought about accessibility, reaching students who are on free and reduced lunch. And I have to say that there's something also really powerful for kids when they're young, being on a college campus. I've seen this time and time again, because we also offer something like this at where I work. And I've sent my kids to summer camp on UW's campus, and it's very powerful for them. So having kids being able to see themselves on a college campus, especially if they haven't in the past, is really beneficial. Additionally, I just love the idea of having a really symbiotic relationship with Bastyr and our community. I feel like that's an area that has been a real opportunity to grow and develop. And I think this proposal puts that forth. So I'm really excited about it. I guess, if anything, I think our public would be interested to know probably how many people you think the program might serve, especially in its first year. So do you have estimates for that?
That's a very good question. And thank you, Councilmember Kugler, for your comments as well. We really appreciate that. It will vary based upon the exercise or the endeavor that is actually put in place. So if it's the nutrition aspect, we foresee that those camps could actually have anywhere from 10 to 20 children per camp over the course of summer, reaching up to maybe about 80 plus students or so. And then if we think about other opportunities throughout the year, that would, of course, extend these opportunities. The mobile lab, nutrition lab in and of itself would have a very far reach, of course, by being able to address several classes within the course of a single day at an elementary school or even middle school and also high school. And then, of course, in the neighborhoods. So the numbers would actually move up quite a bit for that type of experience. When we think about our farming and gardening aspect, and we consider the number of children who could be involved during the 2-week process, probably looking anywhere from around 15 to 20 kids per 2-week camp in that area, similar numbers as a nutrition camp. Part of that is to ensure that we're able to start off in a very strong way. And we would probably seek to increase the number of students with possibly some overlapping camps in the future. But to begin with, we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to move it ahead, work out any of the relative areas, any of the kinks, so to speak, so that we can actually become even more efficient with the process. And then also, as we think about the opportunity for the growth and the propagation of vegetables and otherwise, by the time the next year actually comes into fruition for that summer, there will be even more opportunity and space for a higher level of production from those vegetables and plants to have more children, as well as with the revenue generating aspects. It will allow for us to also have additional personnel who would be able to help support the camps, which we anticipate an increase in the number of kids we would be able to address in that particular area. And of course, with the nutrition and exercise also, aspects, those camps. It depends on the type of activity that we engage in.
And I just want to add something. I think, there's the hands-on programs and how many individuals are touched in that moment. And, maybe there's 100, maybe there's 200 students during the course of a summer. And then there's what I would call the vibrational effect. Those 100, 200 kids are going to their 100 or 200 families, and they're taking these kits and they're talking about, and they're excited about vegetables, suddenly. And that's pretty exciting for those 100, 250 families. And then you think about, to me, like the public outreach aspect of this, which could be tens of thousands, where, we're talking about the farmers market, we're talking about, communications planning, like having Kenmore being seen as a city that focuses on wellness. There's so many co-branding opportunities, like the city of Kenmore is going to be slapped onto everything that's around. And so the tangible things that we have, whether they're a mobile unit or whether it's a greenhouse or what are the materials that we're producing for the educational pieces, I just think there's such this vibrational opportunity that's there. So yes, 100, 200, whatever the number is in the actual touch points, it's just really expands. So that's the exciting part about that to me.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Well, I would amplify what my colleagues have already said. I think, building a partnership with Bastyr makes a lot of sense. This is a really innovative proposal you've put together. We still have a lot of work to do to figure out how we're going to spend our ARPA funding, and we already have a community survey out right now to look at some of that, and it'll be interesting to see where this I know this one isn't in that particular survey, but it'll be interesting to how this competes against the other things that are being brought to us for ARPA funding. But I think this is a really interesting proposal, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come and present tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Herbert. We really appreciate that and the opportunity.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And with nothing more to come before us, Kenmore City Council is adjourned. I'll see you all at 7:30 for group photo.
Have a good evening.
Not everyone. Well, see you in a bit.
Thank you.
Good night. Okay, Nancy, it's all on you now. Hi, Rob. Good night, Rob.
Good night.